were really close friends, and we started seeing each other. When she felt pregnant to me, I wanted to get rid of the child. And I remember turning up at that appointment, and she didn't. I get this phone call, today you had a son. Before I walked into that hospital, I was ready to die for, gang life. I was ready to die for my boys. And leaving that hospital, I was like, no, I want to live. I got in trouble during that time when he was born. Went through a series of court cases. My mother turned up to those court cases. She was the only one that would turn up. My dad, would never turn up. When my court cases were done and I get out, I try to connect with my son's mother, but she just didn't want to connect with me anymore. I couldn't even find them. I couldn't talk to them. It was like, it was done. It was over. I called up my mother, and I remember her telling me that your brother's not here, he's in Australia. And I said, okay, I'm gonna try and link up with him. Do you have a number? And so when I got to Marset, he said he's working, starting a new life. He's married, he's got kids. A year later, he takes me to Avondale, and he's there on the computers. He was on Bebo connecting with people, and he was just showing me some people that he was talking to. And I remember looking at it, and I said to him if I could punch somebody's name in. He said, yeah, go ahead. So I punched in my son's mother's name, and her profile comes up with my son's picture as her profile picture. Throughout that whole year, I'm like writing to her, and she doesn't reply to me until the end of the year. She said, if you want to come see your son, you can come see him, but that's about it. I jumped on a plane, went back to New Zealand, reconnected with her and my son. And I remember that feeling. It was just like the best feeling in the world, seeing my son, And so both of us and our son made the move over to Australia, where we lived in Newcastle. And there in Newcastle, there was this like whole new purpose now. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm gonna do the right thing. As I walk through the door coming home from work, she goes, phone is for you. So when she hands me the phone, I grab the phone, I'm still looking at her, and I said hello. And he says hello. The moment he said hello, I knew it was my dad's voice. I felt like a kid again. I was like, I didn't know what to say. And I said, what can I do for you? And he said that he wanted to come see me, see my son, and see my wife. I had a lot of feelings. I was like angry, but then at the same time I was scared, It still felt as if he was looking over my shoulder throughout my whole life. What my wife did not tell me was that the whole time that I was, locked up and going through those court cases, my dad was the one that stepped in for my son, taking him to school, took him to church. They had this relationship that I didn't know about till my wife was like saying to me, just say yes, we'll go pick him up when he comes. He flies over to Sydney, we pick him up. My wife and son went to bed. It was just me and my dad. He starts talking to me about his conversion. He starts talking to me about his faith. He turned to me and said that he loved me and was proud of me. And he said to me, there's actually something you can do for me. I said, what's that? He says, your son loves to go to church. I just want you to break that cycle in the family, raise a generation of, God-fearing children. Don't you dare turn back. And so that led me into a whole new world of trying to figure out and understand for myself this book, its history, why is it important? My life just kind of changed as I was pursuing God to understand him and to get to know him. I came to know myself, and I came to know what my purpose was. From the moment that I picked up that Bible and started to pursue God, I realized that, he had already been pursuing me a long time, pointing me to becoming the person that he's always called me to be.
The golden thread through all our testimonies this morning is God's Word, the Bible. And now, our final testimony for this morning is from Sister Ida. A while back, if you can remember when I spoke about the Word, I told you that this Sister Ida has got a powerful testimony. No preacher went to visit her, no elder, no deacon, no church member. The Bible brought her back to church, and let her share a story with you at this moment. Thank you, Auntie Ada. You can come.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. It's so true that what God does is very powerful. Let me begin. I grew up in the Adventist home. My grandfather was the founder of Calvinia's Adventist Church, 1932. I was raised by love, in the truth. And then we moved to Cape Town and we stayed in Kensington, and I was baptized there. But you know, when you're young, you're naive, you're stupid, you're not, you do your own thing. And I fell in love with a very tall, beautiful, white guy with green eyes, which was a non-Adventist. And my grandfather tried everything to keep him away. Nie my Ida maak haar way om daarby om uit te kom. And you know what? It wasn't long after that we got married. And we stayed 2 years in Cape Town, and then he decided we must move to the Eastern Cape. And I was told by my grandfather that I must go look for the Adventist church, and I must get involved there. And I did that. They had a little church in a village. That time, Pastor Jeftus, he was the pastor of King Williamstown and East London. And then Pastor still came and he met me. And then he came back, and then Pastor Heger came. And I became the superintendent of the Sabbath school. And it wasn't long after that, trouble started in paradise. So much so that I couldn't go to church. And I was heartbroken. And then I called Pastor Heger and I told him, I said, Pastor, with my husband, this is the situation. What must I do? He said, my young girl, I can't tell you today what you must do, but we are very unhappy to lose you. But ever you decide, never forget how you were raised. And I felt I was forced to leave the Adventist church. I left the church, and I go and served my husband on a Sunday at the Baptist church. And I said to him one day, when my grandpa turned 90, we must move back to Cape Town, because when my grandpa turned ill, I want to be here. I've heard him and I've heard the Lord, but I want to come back. And I came back, and not once did my grandpa speak to me about leaving the church. He was just loving and encouraging. I remember 1987, he turned ill. And it was on a Sunday, and all the children and family was called to his house. And I got there, Pastor Bayes came, and Pastor Cornelius came. It was just family there. And he called me, he said, waar is Ida? En ek kom en ek sê, ja pa. He said, Pastor Bayes en Pastor Cornelius, hierdie kind het ek groot gemaak, sy is vandag 'n ma, en sy het haar rug gedraai op die waarheid. Hy sê, ek is op pad, ek gaan nie meer lank hier rond wees nie, maar ek vra vir julle, om vir haar te bid. En dat die Here haar moet terugbring voordat dit te laat is. Brothers and sisters, as a young married woman, I had to go and stand Yes, this is Pastor Cornelius, me, Pastor Bayes, and there's my grandfather laying. And then Pastor Cornelius said, Sister, ons weet jy's reg groot gemaak. Ons gaan jou nie oordeel nie. But this is the way, walk ye in it. And we're going to pray for you. En Pastor Bayes sê vir my, hulle gaan ook nie vir my oordeel nie. En hulle wil nie ek moet 'n besluit maak vandag nie, want dan maak ek 'n besluit based op Pastor Hige, Pastor Cornelius, my oupa en hom. Maar hy's bly, want my oupa het gesê, my oupa is bly. He's at peace. En hulle bid hy dag vir my. Ek staan daar. But brothers and sisters, something rekindled in my heart that day. I was already a mother of 3. And it wasn't 3 days after that, my grandfather passed away. I went on as in the Baptist church. But 2017, God answers prayer in His time. 2017, something very bad happened in the Baptist church. The pastor left, he went to Pringle Bay, and he went to go, hy het net hom gaan afsonder daar, en voor hy huis toe kom, het hy op 'n rots gaan staan om vis te vang. They never found his body until today. And then in the new year, 2018, nou, ek het nog nooit in my lewe so iets gesien nie. Because I remember when I grew up in the Adventist, there was never, ek weet nie of die deacons and the pastors nou beklei nie, I don't know. But that was just something ek sit daar en ek dink, what is going on? Because the deacons feel that as lang wat hulle op die diagonate is, they can be ministers. And I was sitting there, and you know what happened that night while sitting there in that church? It was as if I was listening. I heard Pastor Cornelius. I heard Pastor Bayes. I'm sitting in a meeting where people are fighting. And I heard my grandpa plead to come back before it's too late. 1:10 in the morning, I said to my husband, we need to get home, it's late. And then they closed, and we went home. I couldn't concentrate, I don't know, I couldn't concentrate. My mind is, I am going home. I'm going back where I come from. And you know what? I stayed in Blackie that time. And God is so great. That time, Brother and Sister Seppi asked Brother L.B. Peterson, het kerk gehou. Ek was 'n loopafstand van hulle huis af. En my situation, and I told Pastor On. And I told them that we've got a, then I'm going, we are looking for something, so we might move to. But when I made that decision, I didn't speak to my husband. There's 2 that I found. That was Douglas van Aarde, I don't know him. Pastor Ray. Bly my broer het ene kom huil by die huis aan my. En Pastor was net so bly. I said, Pastor, I want to ask you something. You are with me. Tell my husband, I'm not going to go to the Baptist church anymore. I don't want him to argue instead of honoring God. We sold our house. Go. Cousin Janet. I used to go with her to church. That is where I was baptized. Kensington is too far. No, let me Zeeman. He said to me, Ida, to Edmund. I said, no. Tonight, tell him you're not going to go with him to the Baptist church, and then me once you've spoken. And speak to you. I told him he didn't. I honor you years ago. Instead, now I'm going to be honoring you. I just want to be, because I do. And God heard Father Neil's prayer, and he answered it. And you know, as Pastor Ray, to go to a place to worship, but I want to go to Belgium. Pastor, why? I said, because the members who Kale's are coming. 5 green lights. You get red lights and orange. Maybe you understand what they are. But that morning, this sister and Sister De La Cruz, Reino, and you know, they welcome me. I remember Brother Van Bedaan, and he asked me, you know, Daggy? He said, that's my brother, and that brother welcomed me. But brother, back here, and me in my life, there are flaws. It gets part of you. I will write the message, the script, and I will go